Joining me now is Terry Lynch,
Good to
CEO.
see you again, Karl.
Absolutely, CEO, President, Director of Power Nickel.
That's me.
Overall, great guy in the industry.
We'll take that too.
So this is going to be a little bit of a rough one for me. I'm just going to say this now, not because I don't know anything about nickel, but because I'm just a massive fan of you. And my job is to kind of sit in this seat and be unbiased, challenge you a little bit, which I'm sure I can do, but I just love you, Terry. You know?
Well,
I love what you guys are doing, and I think you're a great follow on Twitter. If anyone is not following you on Twitter on your personal account, you should. I just love everything you say, man.
thanks, man.
All right, so let's get an update on Power Nickel. I'm going to just start with capital markets, cap structure. How many shares outstanding?
About 120 million.
Okay, last raise?
4.2 million in November.
Okay, was that around 40 cents?
It was basically 20 cents. It was like a flow and hard. So not really a flow. It was one of the 2-for-1 deals in Quebec. So it was actually an investor buyback. So we did it at 20 cents a unit.
Yeah.
With a 20-cent warrant that's callable at 40 cents. And then 30% was done hard at 10 cents.
We're going to get into the 2-for-1 because that's obviously something we need to talk about here. And how much of the company do you own, Terry?
My family and I own about 20%. Yeah, we were the biggest investors in the last round.
So you're not very supportive of the company then?
I'm a believer. I'm going down with the ship or up with the ship or whatever the ship's going to do. We're going to do it together.
Yep. What about close friends and you talked about family, but outside of that, how much more of the float is kind of controlled by people you know?
Yeah, basically the probably 90% of that round was done by insiders. Because you remember how desperate it was last year, and we just felt we were giving it away. You should give it away to the guys that brought you, right?
That's right.
Fair, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we did, and so between Critical Elements, the Stern family, BT Global, Palace Capital, and the board, we have more than 50%. So
nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
Nicely done. And if I was thinking about a pie chart of the shares, so we've covered 50%. What about the rest? You got institutional, retail?
You know what? Actually, there's a few key brokers involved that probably own about 20-25%. So I'd say have a good handle on 75% of the float.
Okay.
The other 25%, somewhat lost in the sands of time. Don't really know, who has them.
Okay. So you're chasing down nickel in Quebec. Quebec is probably one of the best, if not the best, places to be looking for nickel right now because of the 2-for-1 deal and other things. They're a very supportive province. I know that. Yeah,
I'd have to give them full respect and credit. I think it's arguably for critical minerals the best jurisdiction in the world at the moment. Not only do they have great infrastructure they've taken time and investment to put in, but they've done a great job educating and working with the local communities, and particularly the indigenous communities. Ours is the Cree, and they've showed them how they can benefit and profit, from mining, and so they're very supportive to mining, and that's often a major risk factor in mines. So having the community support is amazing.
Yeah.
We're off a major 4-lane highway. We're across the road from a major Hydro-Quebec substation, 8 kilometers from Nemaska, the town, and the airport. There's 4 mines being built within 50 kilometers or 50 miles, so to speak, of us. So, it doesn't get much better that way. And then, of course, to top it off, you've got the 2-for-1 or 2.1 to 1 structures on the financing side, which when you initially say that to people, they figure you're just full of it, But we've done one. So
sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, I've done one, and basically how it works is that the federal and provincial governments have made a decision to promote electrification, the greening economy, etc. So they have a number of tax deductions and tax credits, in various jurisdictions, and in Quebec, that basically allows an investor, in this case a high income paying Quebec-based investor, to put an investment into a company like Power Nickel, often through one of the bigger, like in this case we did it through Industrial Alliance, so they're a big broker, and they basically put the investment in our case at 20 cents, and then the next second our end user investors bought it back at 10 cents.
Right.
So you actually see way better than flow through, because you actually get the stock held in solid hands ready to the gate.
Right.
So you're not eating that stock in 4 months or whatever we used to do in flow through.
Yeah.
And yet you get twice as much money to work with. So it's a great sell for the investor to say, hey, give me $1 in this great project, and I'm going to put $2 to work.
Yeah.
I mean, that works. So, so that's what you're able to get in Quebec today, and that's fantastic. Now, none of that's worth a hill of beans if you don't have an ore body.
That's right.
So all of that has to take a second seat to the ore body. But we've been blessed by we acquired a great ore body with 3.1 million tons of historical resource, about 1.6% nickel EQ, and we've had a great success drilling it up. Now we're on to the third program, and almost probably close to 15,000 meters into all three, and we'll probably end up at about 17 or 18 total this phase, and all that will be added to our 43-101 end of June, early July. We're doing a full new metallurgical as well, and
because you had previous data, but it's too old.
Yeah, we actually had in full disclosure, we had published an updated 43-101, but unbeknownst to us and to our QP, BC Securities has a rule that if your metallurgical data is more than 10 years old, you can't use it. So it's not like that in Quebec or Ontario. So to my knowledge, so as a result, they asked us to pull it, and we said fine, no problem. We did. We were planning to do a new metallurgical anyway. So we sort of knew we were sort of at around the, depending on what price you use for nickel, the 4 to 5 million ton range already, and then we've added substantially through the drill bed. We've been, I told you off camera, we're hitting on sort of probably 50 to 60% of the holes, and we're getting some whoppers. Like we had one hole was 40 meters of 1.6%. That's a monster, and we've had other 10 meters of almost 3%, and things like that. So we're over half the holes are more than 1% nickel. So it's an attractive ore body, and it seems to be we've got a pretty good understanding of where it's going. And so we're sort of saying to the street, we think that when we update the 43-101, we'll probably go to 8 to 10 million tons, and that should make us commercial. It will make us commercial on that one pod. And the cool part about nickel sulfides the world over is that every single nickel sulfide mine in the history of the world that's ever produced is up on multiple pods. Yeah. So it's highly likely we'll find other pods, and we've got some pretty interesting concepts of how we're going to do that.
And pulling it back a little bit, you actually got this project from CRE,
yep,
which is a stock that you told me about 2.5-3 years ago, right before the pandemic. The stock was about 30 cents,
yep,
and you said, Karl, this one I think is going to be a winner.
Yeah,
and now it's like I don't know, around $2 or something.
Yeah, no, it's like almost closer to $3. Last I looked, it was $2.60 or something like that. And I think they're going to 10. Honestly, it's an amazing stock. I mean, one of the really great value plays in lithium. There's not a lot of value plays in lithium, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
And it's hard rock lithium, and it's just the start. I mean, this thing is. I mean, the NPV on it is. I think it's 1.9 billion, 81% IRR. It's ridiculous. So.
You benefited twice because you obviously own that stock.
I do.
You invested in that, and they said, hey, we're really focused on lithium. We want to focus on this. Here's this nickel play. So you're leveraging your relationship and being a good guy in the industry. You nail this. You nail this asset here.
That's sort of how it happened. We had I brought some other investors in when I came in, and they were appreciative of the help at the time, and I think that established a good relationship. And JS, John Sebastian Lavalley, is a great geologist and sharp guy. He didn't really want to give up the nickel project because he loved it, but he at least wanted to give it to somebody that would put the money in the ground and make it work. And so he knew that we were honest practitioners, and if there was nickel to be found there, we'd find it.
Well, noted that you have a great relationship with him, because I called him about 6 times to do an interview and I couldn't get a call back. So maybe I should just go through Terry next time. Okay, so yes, these types of discoveries, nickel sulfide, high-grade nickel sulfide, historically have multiple pods.
Right.
Tell me about the technology, because I was in a nickel play about 5 years ago, did very, very well. But they can't find these pods. They just can't find them. Now, they're drilling up like 5,000 feet up on a mountain in the Golden Triangle. You are not. But what's been the latest advances on the technology side of things to help you identify stuff underneath the ground?
Right. So there's always still good traditional tools like seismic and downhole EM and VTEM and ZTEM and things like that, and we'll use those as well. But one of the new tools in the toolbox is it's called from Fleet Technologies, and it's ambient noise tomography. And basically think of it as sonar mapping. And what they do is how I discovered it was actually a shareholder, technology investor, a friend of mine who was an investor, he said, Terry, have you seen Talon Metals' newest release? And I said, no, I hadn't seen it yet. And he sent it to me, and I looked at it, and it was about them using this fleet technologies, and I read it, and they were talking about this sonar technology to, basically identify the basements and identify the resources and visualizing in 4 days. And I thought, wow, that sounds fantastic. And Talon is already a very successful company. That deposit is worth about $500 million US or so. So they're not doing it as a stock promo. They must think that's going to help them advance the cause. They're really one of the top technical teams in nickel on the planet. So I had a lot of respect for those guys. So I contacted Fleet and eventually got hold of the right people there, and they sent me their white papers, and I read it and whatever. And I thought, makes sense to me, but again, I'm not a scientist, so I could be easily fooled.
Right.
So I brought in my scientific team. So we used Geovector, Joe Campbell and Adam Finley and their team, and 3DGO with Ken Williamson. And they were honestly skeptical, as I guess good scientists are always. And they were like, I said, guys, look.
What were they skeptical?
They were like, it's unproven. It's relatively new, and it's
right.
like, we got traditional methods that we can use.
And that they were comfortable with.
Yeah, and they were comfortable with. And I said, guys, look, I'm not saying we're not going to use the traditional methods. I'm all about measure twice and cut once.
Right.
Like, let's use as much of the brain power we can, because drilling's expensive. We can use all the other tools, but let's see if this one can, help us. Sure. So I said, I'm going to pay you to get educated. If you don't like it, then we don't use it. So, they had 3 sessions with the guys, and they finally said, no, you're right. This thing is really going to help us. So, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So basically the concept, just for the, people listening is that they put what looks like a little landmine on your project, but it's called a geode, and it doesn't actually blow up anything, but it actually sends a sonar pulse into the ground, and that it goes down 2,000 meters, and it comes back as a sound map. And then they collect these sound maps, and those sound maps are then uplinked to a satellite that Elon Musk put into the sky for them. Right. And basically, then the data is sort of processed up there, and then it basically can enable you to get a visualization on your site within 4 days. Now, what they do is they have come up with some algorithms that allow them to sort of take these sound maps and then compare it with your hard physical data. So we have actual drilling data with assays and azimuths, and it's undeniable at 300 meters that this was this much nickel, this much copper, this much palladium, this much cobalt. So they correlate that, and then they look at your geophysical data, if you've got any like ZTEM or VTEM or whatever, and they bring that all together, and then they correlate these maps with that data, and then they can come up with a sort of a 3D visualization of your deposit at depth. So it does a number of things for you potentially. It shows you, your deposit, maybe sectors that you haven't you've underexplored that you could tack on and add some relatively cheap tons. Second, if this is like a stacked deposit, there's another layer underneath. Shows you that. Right. And then finally, it gives you a signature that you can now, like we're working 1 square kilometer of a 45 square kilometer package. So we're going to take that signature and then go use the same, the geodes spread out over 45 square kilometers over, a couple month period, and look to find those other comparable signatures. Yeah. And that would, cross-reference that with the seismic data we've got, with the, the IP, and et cetera, and then based on that, we would, make our drilling decisions. And hopefully, the whole idea behind this is that you should be able to drill much more efficiently, so you're disturbing the earth less, costing less money, and you'd be able to get to your deposits much quicker. Yeah. So this is, we're in the game where we're burning every day. Junior mining is you're dying every day as a company, because we don't actually produce anything until we actually do, and that's many years down the road. So the more efficiently we can get to these deposits and identify they're there, then that really sort of sets the tail.
Yeah, that's incredible, because in most of my interviews, I always, especially with nickel, I always ask, like, has there already been any technology advancements, something that can help you find these high-grade pods, whatever, and I got no, and so this is fantastic. Definitely be following up with you to see how that goes.
They'll get deployed in end of May, and we expect that by end of June we'll certainly have identified our next targets, and probably by mid-July all of the targets. So that's exciting.
This property, how what's it like for drilling? Can you drill all year round? If you really were getting into this thing, could like?
So it's got some boggy areas. So like we're drilling some of the winter targets, what we would call right now, that are not in our core zone, not in what we call NISC main, but they're good IP targets for us that are sort of slightly, they would be other pods if we make a discovery. So we'll see. So we're drilling those boggy areas right now because it's winter. But generally speaking, you can drill year-round at NISC except for the boggy areas and except for spring break, which is generally early May to early June.
Yeah,
like
it's too muddy.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you have other projects. I think you might spin something out.
Yeah, we expect to announce something like that fairly imminently, that we're going to be spinning out. The way it will work most efficiently for us is we'll spin out our copper gold project in BC first, make that a pubco. We're having some conversations in Chile right now on the M&A side of things that may or may not come together. But if it doesn't come together by the time the spinco is public, then the spinco will acquire the Chilean projects as well. So they'll either be handled in the M&A or they'll go into the spinco. And the reason why we do that is that Chile's got a whole history of accounting issues, just it would cost us about, I don't know, $250,000 more to do the accounting, and it doesn't benefit the shareholders at all. So we just come up with this better idea of how to affect that transfer if the other M&A thing doesn't work out. So that's significant. One of the things we're most excited about, honestly, in Chile is that in our due diligence on this technology, we basically, as they were explaining it to us, they were telling us, about their, where their successes were, which is basically West Australia, and they found copper and lithium in the desert. And I know the West Australian desert has similar problems to the Chilean desert, which is in the sand dunes you have caliche. Caliche is sort of a mineralized limestone that, one of the things it does is it obstructs, signaling for gravity or seismic. So it makes it hard to get a regional feel for, like in Chile, we've got three projects, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 hectares. I mean, that's like the size of the city of Toronto.
It's massive.
So so it's difficult to explore it, unless you got some regional concepts, and that's what you use these bigger geophysical tools for. But the caliche sort of makes that tough to actually be confident in the information you're getting back. So supposedly, according to them, this ambient noise tomography gets through the caliche and gives you a clear read. So that'll be a game changer in Chile if that happens. So
back to the technology.
So we're definitely taking it to Chile in the spinco and having a look at our projects down there, because we've done a bunch of work. So we've already got some stuff that we can correlate with, and I don't know. I think it could be a game changer down there. But I mean, importantly for us, it makes sense to do that in another entity that our shareholders will benefit from. Right now, they're getting no exposure to it. Nobody really thinks about it anymore. But it could be quite valuable. Certainly, we think it's worth probably what we're worth today. And then who knows what happens. And then it'll be in a vehicle that'll be separately financed, so it won't be a drain on the NISC treasury. NISC is about finding, and developing the nickel mine at Nemaska, Quebec.
Yeah. Very marketable story, too, with the nickel right now, obviously.
Yep.
We know that. I mean, I've covered the supply issues, foreseeable future, the demand. I mean, honestly, I don't even think you can meet demand. Nickel is a key component to increasing the performance of an EV battery.
Yep.
So, there's obviously two different classes of nickel.
Yep.
Right? You're chasing down class 1.
Yes.
Where's the nearest? So let's go back to the nickel. Where's the nearest smelter?
Probably Sudbury at the moment, but they're going to be building one in I think it's Beaconsboro, Quebec. And interesting enough, I'll let you know a little secret that's happening in the nickel industry right now, is that suppliers or customers of Inco and Vale and Wyloo and Glencore are now coming to companies like Power Nickel and saying, hey, you know what, we buy nickel from these guys, and we make nickel wire, nickel powder, nickel anodes, and now our clients are saying to us, if you want contracts with us, Department of National Defense, car companies, battery companies, we need you to have a secure source of nickel.
Because they know there's a problem.
They know there's a problem
in the pipeline.
So now these guys are coming to us and saying, hey, you know what it costs to build, to take your nickel mine into making powders and anodes and wires? And I said, honestly, I don't. And he said, basically about $350 million. So a regular nickel mine is going to cost you $2.25. So this will be $350, another $125. He says, but you know what happens? He says, we'll triple your economics. He said, we get like LME, like London Metal Exchange price, plus 6 to 14 for powders. We get LME plus 125 for some of our wires and anodes. He says, we'll triple your economics. So he said, so how would it be if we put up the 350 and we get in business together? So those conversations, obviously that's not a done deal. Those are just, but the fact that it's even contemplated and discussed is, wow, he says you don't have to be a dumb commodity guy anymore. You can actually get a seat at the table.
Right.
So
that's a pretty funny way of looking at it.
It is. Yeah.
So if the market doesn't want to pick the story up and support it and finance it that way, then you can just go to those guys and JV.
Well, one of the biggest reasons why we did that financing last year, why I went around to all of our key shareholders and said, guys, look, we need this one round because this is the round that'll make us commercial. And after this round, if the market doesn't get it for whatever reason, there's black swan events in the market, or who knows what can go on in the market, shorters and all those garbage.
You'll move on.
But we'll make a deal with the industry, and we'll still, our shareholders do great. So I mean, we'd obviously like the market to come back, and we think we should be many levels above what we're at. If you look at our peer group, we're trading at a vast discount. The market will do what the market will do. We can't control it. So we got to have another plan. So the other plan is industry.
See, I don't have to ask about your experience and what you've done because you just keep pounding the value out on camera here. It's like
Well, it's because it doesn't get any bigger believer in the project than me.
True. So. Yeah. Well, that's great to have that option. You don't have to really. I mean, you're going to look at the market, look at your market cap, and shake your head every day a little bit. But at least you've got options. Yeah.
And I think honestly. What happened, there was obviously after the Ukrainian-Russian debacle, we've had a lot of, fear in the market, especially for flight to liquidity and so forth, hasn't really come back. I mean, the lithium stocks have had a good run, relatively speaking, especially the U.S. and international ones, more so than the Canadian ones. But at some point, I would think, copper and nickel stocks are going to have a serious run here because the electrification story, the greening story, isn't complete without those guys. So
you can't electrify the world without these components.
No, and like the commodity prices are fine, really. Everyone's going to make money here. We don't need them to go higher. I mean, I think they're going higher over time, especially by the time we would be producing.
Yeah.
But we can make tons of money down here, and the markets have not factored into that. I don't think. I think the general public is still sort of on the sidelines, on the mineral investing. They you've got the passionate few that, like ourselves, that have been in this, investing in this space for a long, long time, and we're still there and still believing. But hasn't made it cross the lexicon of the normal investor yet.
The generalist?
Yeah, the generalist, the guy, or the young millennial that was in crypto and buying, various technology stocks. They haven't bought mining stocks yet, but I think they're getting learned now. I think they're starting to do their homework, and I'm hoping that they're going to start to come because they'll be.
That's a game changer.
That's a game changer when they do come.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so let's where do you want to leave it off right now? Is there a message for current shareholders or potential new shareholders? Obviously you're going to be lighting things up here in May.
Yeah, I mean, we basically would expect the 43-101 will go out end of June, early July. We think, we're releasing results pretty much every 4 weeks or so from now until the end of July. So I think do your homework, check out the comparables, check out our package. We actually post our drill collars and azimuths, so if people want to model this deposit, they can.
That's amazing.
And that's why industry likes it, because they've actually modeled it. They already know, and we know, So that's why we're saying get out there and model it yourself.
That's great.
And many people do. What's the point of keeping that secret? We own the project. Nobody can steal that.
Yeah.
So it's like never made sense to me that they were so sensitive about that information. Be transparent. Let people do their homework. So go out there and do that. And I think you'll, if you've got an appetite for investing in this space, it'd be hard to find a better risk return deal than power nickel, in my view. But I mean, of course, I'm biased, and I admittedly so. But anyway, it should be part of your package.
Sure.
And I think it's going to be a lot of news. You know, we're going to have the drilling results will be out, the metallurgical will be out, the 43-101, and then we'll be doing the PEA. There's going to be the spinout. The spinout's going to be imminent.
Yep.
That'll be a value creation exercise for us.
Free shares.
Yep.
Well, and you know what? You market the story. You work with a lot of different marketing companies and in IR. So I mean, you've got that behind you too. Like a lot of juniors don't spend the money there.
It's not like, some people sort of see that as money wasted. And I say, well, it's all about our cost of capital. At the end of the day, we need money to grow. And if we don't tell people our story, how will they know about the investment opportunity? How will our stock ever get bid up? It's a supply and demand business, and we got to get more demand. It's a great story to be telling right now because it's such a obvious one for people who can do their homework. They don't have to. It's not on a wing and a prayer.
No, absolutely.
This is the proof is in the ground. And the assays don't lie. So we're excited to get out there and tell it, and happy to have opportunities to do shows like this to get the word out, and hopefully some people will make the move from the couch to the computer and buy some stock.
Absolutely. Okay, let's leave it there, Terry.
All right.
Amazing interview, and I'm just such a fan of power nickel. So maybe we'll follow up with you at another conference. And
yep.
You travel a lot, but you are kind of Toronto based.
Yep.
So we can always just catch up with
for
you
sure.
around here.
Yeah, I'm off to Korea after the PDAC. We're going for 5 days with the battery guys in Korea. So I mean that's where this market is at. Is industry is hungry. Mm-hmm. So I don't know when's the market going to figure out if things are coming, changes are happening.
All right, we're going to leave it off there.